Gonna 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Now, Dice Tower Dish, and Above Board TV.
Oh my God, you have so many titles. And this is the podfather of gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode number 277, and we're recording it on May 17th, 2023. Board
Numbers are
Games Insider.
complicated.
Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, and I cannot wait to be in Birmingham, England for the UKGE, hanging out with all my friends and fans of the show at the UKGE. You know who won't be at the UKGE? Who doesn't care about the third largest board gaming convention in the world? The UKG? That would be Tom Vassell. And seriously, everybody out there, and I'll mention this a bit more in my segment in just a bit, but I'll be alone at the UKGE. And I've never before been to the UKGE, and I need to find some fun people to hang out with and find some great British ales at the UKGE. So make sure you reach out or just find me. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
So
Um,
are you going to the UK Games Expo?
the UK Games Expo, the third largest board game
Okay.
convention in the world, and I can't wait because they actually speak, sort of speak the language that I speak. Not exactly, but it's close. It's close enough that I can get around and understand. Some of those pubs, though. I mean, I was in London and the Cockney. Oh my God, it's so hard to understand. But anyway, let's continue here with important stuff, and we'll talk more about that. But please tell us about what's happening in the world of Corey Thompson.
I am currently back in LA. I'm at the studio recording again, and it's been exciting. We've had our launch, videos are coming out. I always forget that Board Games Insider is living in the future. You're going to be hearing this a week after, so I don't know what is going to happen. But Above Board TV is releasing videos. We're planning on every week new videos. We've got some really funny ones with Rodney Smith from Watch It Played. And they're worth watching. We Rodney is really good. I just can't emphasize how good he is on camera,
he
and
is
it's
he is
so much
absolutely amazing, the guy.
with him. So, and since you're talking about conventions, and I forget which one you're going to, Stephen, but I'm going to KublaCon next week. So hopefully I'll see someone there. KublaCon is the largest board game convention in California. We occasionally allow people from Florida, but usually not. And it's just a fantastic gaming, socializing con, really strong prototype presence. I like seeing all of my designer friends over at Kubla. Really looking forward to it. It's one of my favorites.
And it's
Uh,
it's gotten pretty big, right? You have over 3,000 right there,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
absolutely. And it's under new management, which I think is kind of streamlining things a little bit. A friend of the channel, Aldo, is running KublaCon with Mike Eckert, who's had it for a long old time. And it's one of the ones I look forward to in my backyard up in the San Francisco area. So if anybody's at Kubla, and I know it's going to be cutting the wire because when this comes out, Kubla will probably be just about to start. But seek me out, come over, say hello.
That would be great. So we both have shout outs to our fans and friends. Please come and hang out with us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anything
The
else, Corey?
the only other one is I recently got one of my favorite kinds of games are word games, and a new word game that came across my desk was Illiterati. And one, I just love the title. Illiterati is just a cool name for a game. And it's really fun. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's a cooperative word building game where you have a timer and you and your partner have to with the letters you're given, you need to make a certain number of words, and you have to make the words fit into certain categories. So this is from Gap Closer Games, just delivering the backers off of Kickstarter, and I just was really enamored with it. I thought it was cool, neat, chunky letter pieces, nice art. Uh, just a very fun game, Illiterati.
That's awesome. I would definitely be the definition of illiterati sometimes when I'm playing word games. I feel I can't play certain word games. Some of them I'm really good at, but for some reason, sometimes it just doesn't work for
I
me.
think we're getting more hints why you have trouble communicating when you go to a foreign country that actually speaks your language.
Oh, come on. He's so mean to me. Anyway, here over at the Podfather Gaming, remember we asked you and you responded last week about role-playing games in our playtesting segment. And we have a decision on the way that we're going with our role-playing campaign. And that was we are going to do an epilogue, a final one or two. I think it's just one more session in our current campaign, 10,000 years in the past, and we will restart. We are going to use the same system, D&D 5, because most of the players wanted to do that. And that is going to start after the UKG because both Alex Schmidt and I will be there. He's the DM. So we're going to start after we get back, so 4 weeks. And I'll be playing, drumroll please, a dark paladin. So I fleshed it out character concept wise with Alex. Oh, and we're playing in the Ravenloft world of 5e. So spooky, dark, brooding paladin with some very dark secrets. So
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I literally was I'm like, no, I'm gonna do a bard because bards are big now because of the movie came out. Oh, maybe a bard rogue. Hey, those two are big, and I love rogues, and it's like the best class. But I'm like, you know what? And then just thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute, I can do something dark because it's dark. This world of Ravenloft is dark, and we may be going after Strahd himself at some point. I mean, certainly not at first level. We'll see what happens. Other gaming that I'm doing. Have you even seen, Corey, Thunder Road Vendetta yet from Restoration Games?
I played some early versions of it, and certainly through the news, I've seen all sorts of stuff about Vendetta. It looks pretty cool. I'm very excited about it because it had a little bit of a false start there. I don't know if you remember, but Vendetta hit Kickstarter, and then they postponed the crowdfunding campaign for a little while and regrouped, and it looks like it's just come out for the better.
I barely remember that. All I know is I backed it and received it this week while Paula, my girlfriend Paula's son, is in town. And I am not the kind of guy that opens a box and just starts playing. I mean, I'd rather have somebody teach me. I know it's bad. I'm just hate reading rule books. I cracked it open. I'm like, this can't be hard. I played the original. The original was a toy back in the day with the cool cars, but it was like a roll and move. It just wasn't good. It's just not it doesn't stand the test of time in modern. This one, while keeping most of the simplicity, just is genius. Beautiful production, so interesting. It is I'll call it testosterone filled, but that doesn't mean you got to be a guy to play it. But this is like, we are playing that final scene from Mad Max, and we're out on the road, and we are destroying each other in various objectives, sort of, and trying to win a race, sort of. It is great. Not only this game is slated to be a 10 in my mind. It is up there now for probably game of the year. It's going to be in the contention for game of the year 2023.
Wow.
Now, deep strategy? No. Mind bending, like I got to figure out this puzzle? No. This is a game of pure fun. We know who doesn't like fun, but we won't go and talk about that guy again. This game is pure fun to play with your friends. I'm going to be like bringing this with me to like the next convention not the UKGE, sorry, that's too far. But like I'm going to be like the WBC this year in Pennsylvania. Haven't been going. And excuse me, my buddy Chad, one of my oldest gaming buddies, he's going to be there. He's been going every year. I stopped about 8 years ago when they moved it so far west in Pennsylvania, but I'm going to bring this with me. He doesn't have it. I know it. And I got the Maximum Chrome edition. So it contains
nice.
literally, but that's the edition that I'm talking about really being the best, because it contains not only the 4 like base player factions, four player colors, but then it includes the big rig where you're driving the big oil tanker sort of barreling through everything, or the final 5, the motorcycles that come out of nowhere in Mad Max. Plus you can get crews and leaders and upgrade your cars, and that's the one that I'm going to say is a 10.
It looks like what they did with Fireball Island. They took an older game with nostalgic value, with toy value, and they've made it an actual game, which is so exciting.
So congratulations to Restoration Games, Justin and Rob Davio, Justin Jacobson, Rob Davio, who are the owners / lead developers of the company, plus the actual designers of this. I'm going to call them out because I screwed it up in my Facebook, and BGG posted first. Well, my Facebook post. Anyway, Dave Chalker and Brett Myers. Great job, guys. Really fantastic. This game will hit the table a lot. Last thing I want to mention before we get to the event deck is, again, that convention I'm going to. What is it, Corey? I forgot. It's the UKGE. I'm going to be there. Oh, that's
right. You're going to UKGE.
It's in 2 weeks. So a week from when you hear this, I will be leaving that day, that like a week after that. I don't know. We're going to have to reschedule the recording for 2 weeks from now. But I'm going to be alone. I've never been to the UKGE, and I need a guide, and I need some fun people to hang out with, play some games, and of course, find some great British ales. I love the beers of that country. So find me or reach out beforehand. Love to talk to you and hang out. Now we have some interesting stuff to talk about in the event deck. All right, so the first thing here, Corey, is some news. It's new news about a very old game. And this is Rebellion has announced the acquisition of Tunnels and Trolls and the rest of the Flying Buffalo RPG line. Tunnels and Trolls, designed by Ken St. Andre, was published in 1975 and is considered the second role-playing game ever published. The game was designed to be streamlined and a more accessible fantasy RPG, and offered as an alternative to the more complex Dungeons and Dragons rule set. It could be played with a group, but the RPG also offered solo and play-by-mail gameplay options.
That was huge. Play-by-mail was a big deal.
It was a big deal back in the day. Tunnels and Trolls saw 9 editions from 1975 to 2015, and then after the passing of Flying Buffalo founder Rick Loomis in 2019, the IP was sold to Webbed Sphere Incorporated in 2021, and now Tunnels and Trolls found a new home at Rebellion Unplugged. So while this game is never gonna, in the modern world, have a huge impact, it had a tremendous impact. And now many people didn't play it. However, it was the second role-playing game out at Dungeons and Dragons, and then Tunnels and Trolls spoofed the title, but was an actual role-playing game that you can get into their world with different rules than the Dungeons and Dragons from TSR, which was the original publisher of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep. I remember Tunnels and Trolls fondly because in the video game world, there was one of the most famous vaporware pieces of software was they announced a Tunnels and Trolls video game that was going to come out for the ColecoVision in the 80s. And they had graphics and they had demos, and it looked like the fantasy role-playing video game that everybody wanted, and it just never came to fruition. So that's my little nostalgic remembering of Tunnels and Trolls.
Absolutely. Under the category of take my money now, the Lord of the Rings gem, War of the Ring, the card game, will receive its first expansion later this year. introducing new cooperative and solo modes. Lord of the Rings, the card game, released last year as a spin-off from the beloved board game based on the Tolkien epic fantasy trilogy. The game pits 2 to 4 players split into teams representing the Free Peoples and the Shadow, led by Sauron and Saruman, against each other in a battle to control locations across Middle-earth and corrupt the Ringbearer. War of the Ring, the card game's first expansion, Against the Shadow, will allow all the players to work together against a new AI opponent operated by a dedicated deck of bot cards. As in the original game, the human players will control the Free Peoples, including the likes of the elves, dwarves, Gondor, Rohan, and the Fellowship, against the efforts of the Shadow bot to overwhelm them. The AI opponent will be controlled via the deck of cards and the flowchart that publisher Ares Games describes as a simple solution to the automated play, while also offering up a sophisticated challenge. The flowchart appears on 2 reference cards in the box. So, I mean, Corey, you know what I think about this IP.
Are you a little excited? Now, what if I told you that a mere 2 paragraphs down, it says,
I can see how prepared you were.
They're teasing that it might be available to look at UKGE.
No, it is not. No, it is not. No, watch me. You can see my fingers moving right now. I am composing Roberto Di Meglio. I'm composing an email to the president of Ares Games.
It will be released this September following a reveal at UK Games Expo at the start of June.
Must play demo. And by okay, good. All right, I got it. I'm going to send this to him.
I just want our listeners to know that I put this news story up here. Me, Corey Thompson. It was all me.
It broke. It broke right like before the show, so I had not got a chance to see this. We're getting this one on Dicebreaker, but it is also now on ICV2. I saw that it actually appeared there as well. So this is great news for any fan of the card game, and I'll be able to report on it from the UKG. Thank you, Corey, for finding it. You are an awesome guy. However,
it's what I do.
It's what you do. We have even more news regarding the Lord of the Rings.
More tangential Lord of the Rings news.
Amazon Games and the Embracer Group's Middle-earth Enterprises strike a deal for new The Lord of the Rings game.
Now, this is video.
My heart hurts. My heart hurts. Well, tell us about it. Why don't you tell us?
Amazon Games and Embracer Group, through its wholly owned subsidiary Middle-earth Enterprises, part of the operative group Free Mode, today announced that they have reached an agreement for Amazon Games to develop and publish a new massively multiplayer online game based on The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. That's the guy who wrote the books.
But did you glean more from this? I mean, where is this going to deviate? Because right now there's an MMO for Lord of the Rings. I've never played it. I've just, I'm out of the MMO world. I did City of Heroes and City of Villains back in the day. How is this going to differ from that?
They're really not very clear in this announce. This is an early announce, but they are alluding that it's going to take the world of Rings of Power. And, well, obviously, because Amazon is involved in both. So the traditional MMOs have really stuck to the current timeline and what's going on within Lord of the Rings and using that world and maybe little tangential events during the Lord of the Rings. This is going to take place in the Second Age, it looks like, in the Rings of Power world. So there's not really any details. I think it's going to be a pretty clear moneymaker for everyone involved.
I'm sure it will be. Actually, it doesn't quite say that it's going to be set in the Second Age. They mention the Second Age because of the Rings of Power, at the bottom, but they're only saying, well, Amazon Studios produces that show. The framework of this new MMO is not there. So I wonder if the current MMO, which I actually thought about buying into for a little bit, just to play in the world a little bit, but I never have. I wonder if that MMO is going to go away, or how will they coexist? It's going to be an interesting piece to cover in the future.
Absolutely interesting piece of news, especially since uh, Amazon Games is this separate video games division of Amazon. They've been struggling a little bit, so it'd be nice to see a big game coming through.
So Corey, you have some bad news here for the for one company in the industry, right? That's that there's another bankruptcy that has been announced. Why don't you give me a little bit of this Grimlord Games bankruptcy that they've announced?
Yep. So there was a statement put forward on their Kickstarter updates page. This is the Kickstarter for Village Attacks. Grimlord Games has said it is with heavy hearts that we come with you today with deeply sad news that we've come to the end of the line. After 8 years of making games, Grimlord Games is entering into insolvency and immediately ceasing all activity. So the take home is that through all sorts of circumstances that we know all too well, shipping, pandemic, um, Grimlord Games is no longer going to be a company. They are a UK-based company. Everything is going to go to a group called FRG. FRG is going to be selling off the assets of Grimlord in order to pay off creditors. People who
FRG as in Flat River Games?
no. This
Oh,
is
you
it is
sure?
a different. I don't think it's Flat River.
That's interesting
FRP.
because
I'm sorry,
there we go. Okay, FRP.
FRP. Uh, it's FRP Advisory, which is an insolvency firm. They're going to take
Oh,
control, and they're basically going to cash in anything that's left to pay off the debts.
right, right,
So the
right.
bottom line is people who are involved in the current projects will most likely be contacted by FRP and will get hopefully some sort of conclusion. But ongoing projects, including Village Attacks and other games that are in order, they're done.
Yeah, so this company had I'm pretty sure this is the company that we've spoken about them in the past on the show fairly recently that they were they were accused of putting out more Kickstarters to pay for previous Kickstarters. So they had spent the
Oh,
money.
I don't know that backstory.
I I don't want to
I,
spread the bad rumor. I just reached out to a friend of mine who I believe knows all of this because he backed this Kickstarter. And if I hear from him
yeah,
before the end of the show, I can mention it. But yes, so they are out of business. This Village Attacks will not deliver. We apologize. We're sorry for
I believe
everybody out there.
it's the second edition of Village Attacks. So whether you take that as a good thing or a bad thing, this current Kickstarter is a redo of the 2018 game Village Attacks. So the new edition will not happen.
Yeah, they had raised on this. They had raised on this one alone, on this Kickstarter. They had raised almost 300,000 British pounds, which quick
It's really
conversion is
good.
close to 400,000 US dollars, maybe a little
Yeah.
more than that, something like that. So,
They
I
also
mean,
did Everrain was their previous title, which critically people liked it. It was a cooperative story driven kind of narrative title that got pretty good buzz.
right,
So
right. So the next one's an interesting article on Dungeons and Dragons, and it says Hasbro's E1 reveals that Dungeons and Dragons Adventures will become a fast channel. New 24-hour D&D content streaming service launching summer of 2023. So just when you couldn't get enough of D&D, now you can watch
wow.
it 24/7. Hasbro's E1 has revealed this new streaming service. The new channel is Hasbro's latest attempt to capitalize on the success of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. It will be an ad-supported, free-to-use streaming service that will be entirely dedicated to D&D. Some of the shows featured
Wow.
on the service will include original series such as Encounter Party, based on the podcast of the same name, Faster, Purple Worm, Kill, 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 an improv comedy show, and Heroes Feast, cooking competition show. I love it. There will also be older content like the classic Dungeons and Dragons animated series. How cute is that? That originally aired in 1983 to 1985, as well as live gameplay content from top D&D creators and influencers. That's really cool. I mean,
That's so bizarre. And Hasbro for a while has been dipping into entertainment. Hasbro has a movie division, film division. So this is just another outlet for that. It's fascinating. I'm very curious how this comes out.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's certainly something different, right? I mean, a game company that's gonna have a 24/7 streaming channel, like you go to and watching, Netflix shows, or they're gonna push together, different YouTube type of shows, I would imagine. But there's gonna be some original content, like a cooking show. I mean, you can imagine people dressed
That's
as
so strange.
but I love it. I mean, I just think it's kind of a cool idea.
Not the first though. Remember, Catan has a cookbook.
By the way, my buddy who backed this campaign, he just got back to me. I can't read some of the expletives he's put into this since we are on the
Oh,
Dice
this
Tower
is
Network.
back to Grimlord.
Yes, this is Grimlord Games. He goes, and I asked him, I said, this is the project you backed, right? And he said, that's the one, bleep. He says,
nobody's going to be happy if their project.
if you see the guy at the UKGE at his new company, because this gentleman who owned this one has started a new company. No, I cannot read this. I can't read it because he's so angry at the whole thing. Because so we did report on this, and the guy who started Grimlord, one of the two, there was two guys that did Grimlord. One of them kind of broke away, but he was involved. He's an owner of Grimlord. He broke away and he started a new company. I'm not going to call them out, and people have been going after that company now because he's taking no responsibility based on what happened in Grimlord. So yeah. And he has a project actually out on another. I'm not going to go into it because that would be bad mouthing, and I'm not going to do it. But yeah, so sad. Sorry, we had to go back to that one. Star Wars Unlimited's first gameplay details paint the upcoming TCG as a mix of Magic the Gathering Commander and Destiny. Corey.
I found this really fascinating because this is Fantasy Flight. They hold the Star Wars license, and Fantasy Flight has kind of made their mark by doing LCGs. They're doing the living card games where every set and every booster pack is a defined set of cards. But Star Wars Unlimited is very definitely a trading card game, a TCG. There will be random booster packs with different rarities, same model as Magic the Gathering. So they just emphasized more that this is the model the game is going to have. As far as gameplay, what's interesting about it is it's going to be a single card gameplay. Players on their turn will play one card and they do one thing. And so the turns are going to bounce really, really fast back and forth. The goal is kind of what we see in a lot of these games that one player is good guys, one player is bad guys. You each have a base. Whoever destroys the other player's base first wins.
Yeah, that's going to remove. I mean, I like the fact that you play one card. I mean, that makes for a simplistic set of rules that you can have. It is going to remove those great combos, of course, that you get when you're playing in other.
They're going to have to rely on something like that. Like your single card will be more powerful because you previously had,
and it'll build on other. You'll combo with other cards that are still in the game or that are on the table already and stuff like that. But so this is going to be a true CCG. I think people call it TCG these days, but let's face it, it's a CCG. And then they mentioned that this is a true trading card game in the vein of CCG, such as Magic the Gathering, with randomized booster packs. Its first set, Spark of Rebellion, will include more than 200 cards when it releases in 2024. And in other TCGs, players will be able to build custom decks out of their collection to adopt different play styles and strategies. So maybe, and I don't know how big, we don't really know how big this is going to be. I mean, certainly this is a great IP, of course, but there's a lot of card games set in Star Wars and in Lord of the Rings and all these big IPs. Is it going to compete on the level of what we believe to be the next huge CCG, Lorcana, right? And that's going to be the
just
big
what I was
thing.
thinking is
Yeah.
they're releasing a movie at the same time as Avatar. It's now Star Wars Unlimited isn't coming out until later in 24. Lorcana is going to release kind of around Gen Con. So
Right.
we have a little gap. We're going to see Lorcana do what it's going to do before Star Wars comes out. And I
Right.
wonder if there was some last minute changes behind the scenes there to not try to make them not compete.
Yeah,
But
I think it would be an extremely bad thing for them to release same time. Like, let's release this at Gen Con 23. Bad idea. There's going to be a lot of eyes somewhere else. So you put it, I don't know how much later, but let's just say it's maybe it's a UKGE release, or maybe it's a Gen Con of 24 release, a 24 in both of those cases. Much smarter idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to go. We have one more piece of news, I think, because you're typing things. I don't know why he wants me to stop. I like that. That's an Ignacy thing. Stop, Stephen. But we'll do the one thing. We'll clear all the news off the deck, Corey, since you put this one here,
that's
right?
fine.
And this is also
fine.
kind of breaking news. This just came out, and that is that the second draft of the ORC, the Open Gaming License that Paizo is putting out to compete, or to say to Wizards of the Coast, give them the big middle finger, so to speak. That second draft is now ready for public comment. And as everyone recalls, I hope, because we've talked about it a lot, back in January, Paizo, with an alliance of other publishers, they say more than 1,500 game publishers. Wow. Which is just, that's kind of weird, but okay, we'll go with that.
That seems a little conflated, but
yeah, I mean, right. I mean, maybe they said, like, me and you, Corey, we're into this, so we're a publisher. I don't know, but they put out this thing.
A game.
That they put out this thing saying that they are going to put out a competing open gaming license called the ORC. Very, very cool. That will establish a way that anybody who wants to put product into a 5e like license can put out content. Basically, that would come in.
I think for this second edition, they could have called it the second wording of Rights and Designs. They could have called it the Sword, because they do have the axe, which is the answers and explanations. I mean, I think there's so much more room for anagrams that they could use here.
You're such a marketing genius. So
I am.
No, you're really not. So anyway,
Paizo, contact me. We can do something.
Everybody out there who's interested in potentially designing for the ORC should go check it out on the Paizo webpage. In the meantime, let's get over to strategy and tactics. So here's where I have to remind everybody, that we have a contest currently running. And that contest is post a question or up to 3 questions in our guild, in the place where we take the questions, which is easy to find. It says strategy and tactics, post your questions here, post questions there. You get 1 entry into this contest for each question you post, up to 3 questions. So don't post 37, please. I will find you, I promise you, and I will not even answer your questions if you do that, and I'll disqualify you from the contest. But post up to 3 questions, please, separately. There, we're going to select, once the contest is over in a month or so, we're going to select, and you're going to win one of 6 prizes, maybe the coolest ones, I don't know, but 2 of the top ones. We'll choose those first. A game from the Portal Games catalog for 1 USA winner, a game from the Portal Games catalog for another winner elsewhere in the world, and then a piece of Podfather merchandise for a USA winner, and another one from somewhere else, and a piece of Corey merchandise for a USA winner, and one for somebody else. That merchandise that Corey and I have out on Etsy is both T-shirts and mugs and underwear or whatever else you would like to get.
Man.
That would be awesome if somebody wanted
I I
Podfather
do not
underwear.
deserve merchandise, and
You don't.
I was not responsible for my
You
merchandise. I
were
just want to
not.
put that disclaimer out
Our
there.
good friend Marion was responsible for all of our merchandise, which was then approved though by all of us. So you can get one of six
You got
prizes.
approval?
Well, yeah, I worked with her. I worked with her on. So please, so the bottom line here is please go and go to Board Game Geek, go to our guild, post questions in that section that says strategy and tactics. Please post questions here, and you get one entry for every question you post, up to three. We look forward to seeing some really cool questions. They don't have to be very serious. They could be just like, why do you do your podcast or things like that. I just gave you one to ask. So there you go. First question that we're taking this, and this one's back from just from December, so you can see we're only 5 months out on
We're
answering
catching
questions.
up.
Yeah, Greg Senko, I know Greg. He's Leprechaun on BGG. With Frank West recently stepping down from his role at Gamma, this continues to show a lack of stability within. Combining this with suspicions of how much they're really helping publishers in the industry, how much doubt does this cast on the organization's future, as well as the future of Origins? Well, Corey, with your vast knowledge of the industry,
Wow.
how would you like to respond to this? I have some
Well,
some different thoughts on this, but I'd like to hear what
I
yours are
just
first.
I just want to say that I cannot express in words how much respect I have for Frank West
Oh yeah.
and his knowledge of the industry. And I was genuinely excited when Frank took the role as lead of Gamma. I thought if anybody can reform Gamma and do something good with Gamma, it is Frank West. And when Frank left the position, that just answered my question. I don't think Gamma in the any future I can see, I don't think Gamma is going to reform. How is it going to bode for the future of Gamma as an organization and Origins? Honestly, I think it's going to be status quo. I think Gamma is going to keep doing what it does, and people are going to complain about what it does. And I don't think Origins is going anywhere.
So I'm going to say that I agree with most of what you're saying. First of all, 100% with what we said about Frank. Amazing
Yeah.
guy, and it would have been great to see him there. But he did leave after only a couple of months. I think that the future of Origins is absolutely status quo.
Yeah.
That's a thing that gets them revenue,
And we
and
should
it's a
say
good.
Origins is owned by Gamma. That's why we're
Yes,
associating the two.
yes. We should have mentioned that. Thank you. Origins will continue its status quo, and it is a good convention. This is the first
Yeah.
year I'm not going in a while, but not because it's just because I had too much travel and I go into
It's the first year
UKG.
I am going, and it's because you're not.
Oh, jeez. I can't believe you're not going to Dice Tower East, but you're going to Origins. That is a travesty. Anyway, we're not going to go there.
It's
Let's
the
continue
bouncing
this.
coast. It's too
Let's.
much travel.
Yeah, that's my thing for not being at Origins. So that will continue. I still am hopeful, and I'm the positive guy. I'm the Ted Lasso of board gaming. I still think Gamma can serve a good purpose. And as we mentioned and reported here, I helped it get, and it would have, without me, it would have happened anyway. I hope they now offer, college credits to anybody who's a member. You can sign up to go to courses and get college credits. I think that's a great benefit. So there are
Yeah.
organizational benefits. There's medical benefits that you can get. There's all kind of that an organization can give you now, but they also, of course, should give you internal benefits to being a better publisher, a better retailer, right? A better person in the industry.
Yes.
And they have developed some of that. I don't think they push it enough. They certainly try to at the Gamma Expo, which is the trade show, which they do usually in March, and they're moving it next year to back to March in Kentucky. So I still have high hopes. Let's see how it all plays out.
I think Gamma's an organization looking for a purpose, and they've been waffling around that for a while.
Okay.
But
there you go. Jeremy Baker, who's at Fancy Pants. Very cool. I know Jeremy. If you were able to live in a board game, which one would you choose, and which one would you avoid? Example, tiny towns would be pretty cool, building a town with a bunch of cute animals, but Blood Rage seems to be horrible with lands exploding, monsters, and roving bands of Vikings. Oof. Well, it's so easy for me to say, I want to live in the War of the Ring, right? It's just too easy, probably, for me to say that. Corey, does anything? I mean, I certainly would be wonderful,
I've
but
always found this infatuation with Sammy Laxo's world, which is Dale of Merchants, Lands of Galzir, Dawn of the Peacemakers. It's a world of kind of anamorphic, strange animal people and with great names. There's, uh, there's beavers and vampire bats and fennec foxes, and it's just a very cute, very well illustrated world. I thought that one would be great. And there are so many worlds that we should never step foot in. All of these dark, apocalyptic narrative games, Tainted Grail, Ether Fields. There's so much horror going on in
yeah,
there.
I mean, literally, and there are some of our favorite things because hopefully our real world that we live in
Yeah,
isn't as apocalyptic. It might be sometimes. It might feel that way. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go with like just the forgotten realms of the Dungeons and Dragons world. Um,
sure.
and I would try to set myself up, with a tavern, and I would call it something like the Hungry Jackalope or something, where
Steve's
you could
Place.
go Steve's place, where you could go, where all people would meet and they would have information and they would bargain with for information and things like that. So a real rogue spy information
That's
purposeful
cool.
tavern. That's what I would do. I mean, I don't want to go out and adventure because that people get killed out there. But I want to live in the tavern and just show people where to get more information. That would be my thing. Good question, Jeremy.
That's
Thanks.
pretty cool.
Bill Anderson, who's at Nix605, he says, considering the relative ease, in quotes, for DMGMs to homebrew their own settings, what are your thoughts as to why D&D and Pathfinder, i.e., pre-built modules and rulebooks, are selling so well? Do you believe this is a bubble that we will see correction in the short or midterm? No, I mean, this was a pretty easy one, I think. The reason why modules sell so well is because the DMGM has half the work, quarter of the work. I mean, it's just simple. Look, I mean, we're all
Yeah.
busy people. And, when you're in high school and college, maybe you're not as busy. But like when you hit the real world and you got responsibilities and you got things going on, it's hard to do these things.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding, of course, for everybody.
I- well, I mean, we can all agree that there are better DMs and there are worse DMs. And just the fact that some people have this skill set means that there is a business niche to be exploited. If someone is a very, very good DM, why not package that ability, that story, that fleshed out world and sell it as a usable product? And it makes for a really good, easy to approach experience.
Very, very good. I play in two, role playing games at the moment, right? I've talked about it many times. I play in the Pathfinder 1E game with my good buddy Chad, who I just mentioned. We're going to the WBC as the GM there, and it's strictly from a module. I play in the other one, the D&D 5e campaign, with Alex Schmidt being the GM there, and he is, I would say, I can't tell you exactly, but I'd say it's 50-50 homebrew module. I'd say it's probably 25-75 module to his world. It's probably closer to 2080 or something like that. He just comes up with stuff and he just knows how to I find that kind of being able to create things to be
Yeah.
amazing. But he's got stuff that he's been using for many, many years. So this is a new set of
Oh
good.
yeah. Some people are ridiculously good at it.
But it's right. So if he's ran all this stuff for many years in various versions of D&D and in the fantasy world, he just kind of takes stuff off the shelf and kind of re-implements it for a new group. And I think that's what's making that campaign as successful it is.
Now,
it's really well
the
done.
in-between, so I think the bottom line we both are talking about is this is not a bubble. There's always going to be a market for pre-made modules and helper bits.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing actually a growth of that in the industry. There's companies that are popping up that what they do is they make really high quality modules, components, and pieces for people to use in their games. We've got Darrington Press, Beetle and Grimm. They're making an industry out of this.
That's
So
a good.
I found that fascinating.
That's a really good point. And I bet I'm going to make a little bit of an assumption or just take a guess at something here. I bet that the heavier the system, the more popular and the heavier the system, the more companies are going to be out there making modules. It's hard to just bring everything together. You might as well take some of the stress out of it. So like, okay, you meet this like, high level wizard. Well, here's his spell list and here's what he can do. And it's just like it bangs out. Whereas less popular and less rules intensive, and most of the other stuff is like just less rules intensive, is going to have less modules available, and you don't need them as much if there's not as many rules out there. Kurt Van Hoyveld, Vitruvian Gamer. Thank you, Kurt. He's a very big supporter of the show. He's always out there putting stuff out for us. And this is a January 10th question. So let's think about that for a second. After getting hold of the Dune and then Batman IP. Oh, no, we're going to have to wait on that one because this is an Ignacy question. I got to make sure that this is here for Ignacy. Hey, you know what? We'll take this on the next episode because we're really running long here anyway. I'm going to make a little note here. Next.
Not only that, but I'm getting low battery warnings on my recording, so you might need to switch over to the Zoom audio on this one.
This is going to be bad. You better not do that to me. I'm going to go. Right, let's get over to play testing. Oh my God, Corey. Last week we asked, have you ever purchased a board game solely because you heard it received an award? If so, which award influenced you to buy the game solely because it won the award? So this was Ignacy's question from last week. Corey, did anything on this list seem to spike your interest? A lot of people replied.
A lot of people. I think it's a hot topic. So we've got Stephen Ekman.
Oh, yes, I know Stephen.
Yeah, said the only award that has caused me to take a closer look at a game I'd not otherwise considered is the Mensa Select. So I thought this was really interesting. You don't hear a lot about the Mensa Select. Said, after noticing that several games I enjoy won the award. Specifically, when I saw Victorian Masterminds on sale for $7 at Game Nerds, and then noticed it had won the Mensa Select Award, I bought it. I hadn't heard of the game before then. So that's interesting because Mensa Select also does tend to take some games that don't otherwise get a lot of publicity. I think that's a really interesting answer.
I think a lot of people were on the no side of this. Eric Langenbach, he puts a lot of answers out there. His answer was no. He just does not do that. Peter Haraldson said, never solely because of an award. To me, the podcasts I listen to weigh far heavier than the awards. But if I see something being Golden Elephant, Kenner Spiel des Jahres, in some categories of the Dice Tower Awards, they can be a plus when considering a purchase. And I think that's a very, very legitimate way of thinking of it. And Chris Dupree also, not solely now. When I started out, I would purchase the Spiel winner, not awards. Now awards narrow down the selection of what may be a good game, winners and nominees. Then I look at reviewers to see similar taste. So I think for the most part, people are like, no, not solely based on an award, but I'm going to look at the awards to see why people talking.
More no's, but there's a lot of no, I don't do that. However, if it has a Spiel sticker, I'll look into it and see if it's a better game. So it's a lot of no, not an immediate buy, but a lot of the awards will make me do a little research.
Right. So Corey, for next week, you have the question for our audience, don't you?
I have the question, and I want a little recognition that usually you tell me to write a question like 2 minutes before we start recording.
So yes, that's exactly right, because you planning in advance, for the show that you're now a weekly member of. God forbid you should do that. Go ahead.
I joined the show under the pretense that I would not plan in the least little bit.
You did. You
have it writing.
actually said that.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So
what's your question?
Is last week we asked you if you've ever purchased a game solely because it won an award. So in the follow-up, what single fact about a new game would make you purchase or pre-order it sight unseen? The designer, the publisher, the artist, the IP, the cover art? Is there a single factor? I know, sight unseen and cover art. Yeah. But is there a single factor you hear about a game, not the gameplay, that makes you go, oh, I'm buying that immediately. I'm pre-ordering it right now.
I'm kind of typing this into Board Game Geek as we do this so I can be ready to hit send. I'm gonna go IP.
I think IP is a reasonable one.
Right,
and sometimes a cover art will show up before any details of gameplay.
Look, I'm gonna buy just about any game based in the Lord of the Rings, but I'm gonna at least take a look at what it's about. I mean, it's some simple little, there's several of them that came out last year, 2 years ago, last year, from Ultra Pro, and there were these little box games, and I did not buy them. They just didn't look interesting. But when War of the Ring was announced, insta buy. The expansions announced, insta buy. I basically insta bought the Lord of the Rings adventure game. Marcus Ross and a co-designer, I can't remember. I mean, I insta bought that one. I'm like, oh, I love Marcus. I want to buy this one. So that's probably the only thing. Designer could have a factor.
I have quite a few designers that I will buy their game instantly. If there's a new one from Alexander Pfister, if there's a new one from Uwe Rosenberg, I will immediately just
not interested in heavy Euros as much. So a Pfister game, who I think will be genius, I won't insta buy. But designer is an interesting one because while I might buy almost anything that maybe Wallace puts out, but even more interesting, I will buy anything that the designers from War of the Ring put out. So this is a crossover. So I'm not a huge fan of Dune, but I backed the Kickstarter Dune. Oh, I forgot what it was.
So many of them.
The Kickstarter where it held
the cool mini one with tons of miniatures.
Yes, with tons of miniatures, but not because of tons of miniatures, but because it's by Francesco Nepatello, one of the designers. I think it was two of the designers from War of the Ring did it, and they're using the action dice selection mechanic from War of the Ring. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a game that I'm gonna love this, even though I'm not the hugest fan of the IP. So yours is a similar answer, but you're adding in designer definitely because it's an insta buy for games by
a lot of the Euro
Alexander Pfister and Rosenberg
or Vladimir Sushi. I will instantly buy anything by Vladimir Sushi.
Very, very cool. So what do you guys think out there? Do you have any of these sight unseen insta buys? Come and tell us. Go over to the guild. Go answer the question in that specific playtest while you're there. Or give us questions for strategy and tactics and join the contest. And now I'm putting it out there for you. But now we'll get to final scoring. Hopefully Corey's mic has lasted this long. We now have to go to bad audio.
Just ended.
You suck. That's going to be bad. Now,
I'll just be a little.
All right.
There's audio on the Zoom.
Just make sure that it's saved. But anyway, thank you so much. So you guys see the behind the curtains here, all the stuff I was about to say a bad word. All the stuff I have to deal with on this show. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts. Or you can now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. If you want to be part of this podcast, you can just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek. Also, answer our question to you from our playtesting segment by going to the Guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Check out the websites, portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, and dicetowerdish.com. We're all over social media, Board Games Insider, Portal Games US, and Podfather Gaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, Steven on Twitter and Instagram at Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish, at Dice Tower Now, and the active YouTube channels Portal Games Movies and the Podfather Gaming. On
and
TikTok,
Above Board TV.
I'll put that in here, even though you have too many things that you keep talking about. Above
I'll
Board
start
TV.
ones.
And on TikTok, Ignacy is Portal Games US. We'd really love to see you at a convention, maybe UKGE, maybe KublaCon this year. We're coming there. Please come out, hang with us. That'll be fun. Board Games Insider, professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want him to edit your podcast, reach out to him, tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. The great voice you hear doing the intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Anything you want to mention for the special little end of the show news? Besides UKGE, besides KublaCon, I have a meeting with Asmodee today. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
Jeff Engelstein just texted me.
About nothing in particular.
He says Asmodee has to reschedule.
They heard you're available.
So that's pretty funny. So I don't have an Asmodee, but I will have it at the rescheduled time. So, all right, everybody, we're running long here today. So let us end this, and Corey can figure out his audio stuff. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.